Okay, Y.Y.C.I International is a place of mastering mindset and transformation. And that's the more reason why we are having this great masterclass on mindset for transforming business and entrepreneurship. But yes, you can dream it and see it and be it if you focus and determine and take action. If you believe it, then you can be it. And yes, you can, because dream big, start small, and grow bigger. Be determined and focus. 4 factors that can limit and stop us from fulfilling our purpose, achieve our goals, and succeed in life and be transformed. There are some four factors that always hinder us or limit us or even stop us. And that is ignorance, lack of understanding, lack of vision, and unknown of our identity of who we are, our purpose, and also our why. And that is the moment of the truth. But everything in life requires hard work, dedication, commitment, sacrifice, investment, honesty, integrity, and also full of gratitude. And that is why we are encouraging all our younger leaders, younger generations and family to become a life learner. However, curiosity will keep us thirsty for more. And no matter your level of education, you should never stop learning. And Y.Y.C.I Mama said, and I quote, "A thirst for knowledge is something that can never be quenched and should be a lifelong quest. So discover what you are capable of doing and keep yourself in a growth mindset and keep learning." All our dreams can come through if we have the courage to pursue them. And I believe that is more reason why we are here. Said by Walt Disney. Wisdom is the principal thing, and in all our getting, we get understanding, better understanding of life, which lead you to better and quality performance. And to fulfill your purpose in life, we always start by personal development, self-actualization, self-assessment, and self-love. Also, examine the situation you find yourself and the challenges that you are facing every day with a critical thinking and find solution. Stephen Maribor said that when your mindset changes, everything along will change. The mind is the limit. As long as the mind can envision the fact that you can do something, you can do it. And as long as you really believe 100%, said by Arnold Schwarzenegger. Limitation lives only in our minds. But if we use our imaginations, our possibilities becomes limitless, said by Jamie Palonetti. So if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at will change, said by Wayne Dyer. Okay, so while we are continuing with this, our mindset for transforming business and entrepreneurship, I want you to just have these points in mind: awareness, responsibility, self-belief, blame-free, solution-focus, challenge, action, celebrate, recognize, develop, and engage. So, on this note, we want to welcome you to our Y.Y.C.I International Academy as we present to you mindset for transforming business and entrepreneurship masterclass, which we're going to be covering a lot between this week, next week, and week after. We are opportuned and grateful for our great leaders today that will be sharing with us, our speakers, Professor Patrick, Mr. Olaniyo Odukoya, and also Ambassador Pastor Temitope Davidson. They will be leading us today. So let's now welcome our first speaker of the day. Professor Patrick Mungaker is a globally recognized scientific professor, counselor, international speaker, motivational speaker, chancellor of many universities, and also well known in India and all over the world. So let's say much about Professor Dr. Patrick Mungaker. Is a globally recognized, like I've said before, counselor and international speaker. He has made groundbreaking contributions to sustainable development and is widely regarded as one of the world leading experts in this field. Dr. Mungaker is a trailblazer in his field and has achieved several notable firsts. He was the first youngest Indian whose book Introduction to Sustainable Development Goals, non-academic, became part of Atlantic education program. Dr. Mungaker has received an impressive 300 plus honorary doctorates from all over the world, making him one of the most recognized experts in this field. He has also taught over 18,000 plus students and career guided 49,050 plus students. He continues to inspire and educate future leaders. He has appointed 70 plus organizations at various high positions at the same time, and also appointed ambassador by 65 bodies, almost in all disciplines. In recognition of his contribution to teaching and research, Professor Mungaker has received 950 plus international, national, and state awards, 9 national scientific patents, and 18 world records, making him one of the most decorated academics in the world. Dr. Mungaker is a visiting faculty member at 63 plus many national and foreign universities. He served as the Director of Research, Innovation at Oxford University, Lighthouse Leadership University, Dominion of Impact International Bible University, and the Global Ministry, Discipleship Institute, and the Den of International Development at Theophany University. Dr. Mungaker is also a successful author of 7 books, including Introductions to Sustainable Development Goals, Education and Internal Assets, Leadership, Superintendence, Sustainable Horizon, Finding Balance, Inscribe and Stem Cell Science, which is the best seller. He also co-authored 15 books, represented India in more than 400 plus international conferences as keynote speaker, published more than 45 research papers in various international journals, also working as editor for some journal. You now know the reason why this our great Professor Dr. Patrick is with us today. He is also as a Vice Chancellor at Unified Theological Seminary, USA, United University of Kingdom of Atlantic in Singapore, and University in Zimbabwe, Wisdom University Gombe in Nigeria. Dr. Mungaker brings his experts to these prestigious institutes, even though he looks young. Additionally, he is the first youngest pro-chancellor and founder of Experts, which speaks to his entrepreneurial spirit and dedication to innovation. After serving 14 months as Vice Chancellor this year, he got promoted and became Chancellor of Wisdom University, Gombe, Nigeria. He's the first Indian to be appointed as Dean in CCOL London. First India to be appointed in all academic high positions at the same time. Finally, Professor Dr. Patrick Mungaker's achievements has earned him several prestigious titles, including Lecturers Magnifico LM, HRH, Duke, HRH, Sir, and the Medivine Fellowship, United Kingdom's highest academic honor. He is also the first Indian to receive the distinguished title Professor Wisdom from Institution Cultural Colombian Casta Poetica Magia, Ploma, Colombia, South America. If I continue, I think we'll be here forever. So permit me to invite my honorable, my respected leader, Professor Dr. Pratik Mungaker from India, to present to us his own topic, on his own topic this morning. You are welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Professor Dr. Queen Elizabeth, for the kind introduction and invitation. And it has always been pleasure and honor to be here on this prestigious platform of Yes You Can International Academy. Okay, so my today's topic is about conflict or conflicts resolution. So let's begin. I would first try to explain the definition of conflict. We believe that it is important to distinguish between uh, disagreements and conflicts. Most people are familiar with the experience of having been part of a lively debate on a subject where the differences of opinion uh, were large. So it is quite possible to leave such as debate with heightened sense of being supported in one's original position or having received new insight and perhaps changed or re-evaluated one's original position. The big difference between what you can say um, disagreements and conflicts uh, is that when two people are having a disagreement, they remain good friends uh, or colleagues. The relation is intact and contact is upheld. The relation is sometimes where even strengthened by such encounters. So in conflict, the relation often turn sour and dialogues ends. Now, the conflicts are basically disagreements that lead to tension within and between people. So this is the short definition that we use at that we use generally. So this single sentence, conflicts are disagreements that lead to tension within and between people. This single statement definition is, of course, a simplified truth covering a complex reality. So the disagreement concerns the issue. whereas the tension affects the relation. Thus, a conflict always has the duality of dealing with both an issue and a relation. Effective conflict resolution must address both issues and relation. So conflicts, according to me, I use a I use one formula. Concerns and issue. Concerns and issue plus effect a relation. That gives you conflict work. Okay. So in a simplified manner, you can say conflict work is to seek long lasting solutions to the issue. If we do not deal with the issue at hand, the solutions will be short lived. Okay, so seek long lasting solutions to the issue plus deal with the personal human relation. If we do not deal with relations, the tensions between those in conflict will remain. So conflict work is to seek long lasting solutions to the issue plus deal with the personal human relation. Okay, and the conflict is what? Concern and issue plus effect a relation. There is a difference. Conflict means concern and issue plus affects a relation, and conflict work is to seek long lasting solution to the issue plus deal with the personal human relation. Now, the issue that we are dealing with is often very concrete and tangible, and it is often very easy to identify what the core of the issue is. The relation between people who are in conflict is often the most complex element in a conflict. To navigate in this area is comparable to navigating without a map or compass. To examine the relation, it is sometimes helpful to replace or translate word relation with permissions. Not everyone has the privilege to comment on our personal life, borrow our things without our explicit consent, or comment on our abilities, be they work related or personal. So most of us have a sort of intuition regarding I can say what we are and what we are not allowed to do. But these things are rarely spoken out loud or specifically explicitly. It is perhaps ex what you can say, it is perhaps exactly because of this lack of specialization that these things play a vital part when conflicts are raging. Okay, as an added complication, it is obvious that these boundaries change almost at the whim of our state of mind. We all have days where anything is possible, and one is full of understanding regarding the actions of others. However, there are also days where almost nothing is possible and where everybody's actions are interpreted as a hostile act. So, how conflicts escalate? Okay, when conflicts are allowed to develop unhindered without intervention, or when the parties involved fuel the conflict, it often happens that the conflict evolves in a negative way. As the conflict escalates, one resorts to personifications, accusations, destructive actions, or worse. The issue that started the conflict becomes more and more forged, and what is important is how wrong the other person is. So communication ends. One speaks of not to the other person, only the negative relation remains. And this escalation is portrayed in the conflict escalation illustration. So this is not only a possible escalation pattern, but our experience shows that It is the most common. Some conflicts follow the path step by step, others gain skip one or several steps. Often conflicts move up and down this staircase as it evolves, and the parties are not necessarily on the same step at the same time. So all these discussions, we all those points which we have discussed now will describe the various steps which lead up the conflict staircase and the possible outcomes of these escalating steps. So it is important to note the two gray dividers which I'm going to explain. So these borders represent important shifts in the dynamic of the conflict. So if we see the staircase of conflict escalation, okay, the first stair, or you can say the first step, is disagreement. Okay, we just don't want the same. Disagreement. This is the first step. At this point, there is no conflict, disagreement. Both parties attempt reasonably to deal with the disagreement and seek solution to the problem at hand. It does happen, however, the things are not resolved and the relation becomes muddled. Someone crosses a professional or personal boundary, the other party reacts, and the situation escalates. So that's disagreement. Okay. Then the next step, or you can say next stair, is personification. Personification means it's your fault. The border between disagreement and personification. Now, this is an important and vital border. Okay, once this border has been passed, one often sees reluctance to cooperate, and tensions becomes tangible. So it often happens that one of the parties begins to blame, threaten, and insult the other. So it is rare that the other party does not follow suit. It may be verbally, but can also merely be gestures and body language. So that's the border between disagreement and personification. Now, what is personification? See, if one gets carried away, the conflict escalates and focus shifts from the issue to the person and that person's lacks and faults. The original issue is no longer the main issue, and the issue has become the person. The negative emotions, such as fear and confusion, begin to interfere with the communication between the parties. So one starts to doubt the intention of the other party, and it is difficult to think clearly about the issue due to the chaos created by these negative emotions. So this is about personification. So disagreement, first stair. The second stair is personification. Now the third stair or step, you can say, the problem expands. Okay, always so much trouble with them. So the problem expands. Now, this is not the first time he or she has done this. Old discrepancies are brought into the conflict. Things you thought you had forgotten is suddenly remembered. So that's what the problem expands. Okay, now the border between the problem expands and dialogue stops. So the next step, the number four step, is dialogue stops. Okay, so this border represents another important crossroad. It is difficult to foresee the consequences of giving up communications. So when dialogue stops, when communication stops, and the relation is severed, anything can happen. So without contact between the parties, it is difficult to resolve anything. Therefore, it is paramount importance to maintain some kind of relation, regardless of how difficult it may be. So we recognize the need for a break or time out in order to clear one's head and reflect. So dialogue stops does not mean a temporary state. but a complete end to communication. Okay, so that is dialogue stops. So, or you can say negative feelings and emotion, narrow thought patterns, you know, communication becomes uh, imprecise, and both parties distort what the other person is saying. So selective hearing is prevalent. Oftentimes one seeks our allies who can confirm one's position and the errors of the other's ways. So it feels like communication is futile and everything is misinterpreted. That means dialogue stops. So we have seen disagreement, personification, the problem expands, and then dialogue stops. Okay. Now next step is enemy images. Enemy images. Okay. As contact and communication with other party ends, one becomes more and more entrenched in the thought patterns that are prevalent of the other. Okay, so one's outlook becomes so unnuanced that it can be difficult to find any redeeming qualities in other party. So in very serious conflicts, those that result in violence, massacres and genocide, dehumanization process is often found prior to the atrocities. So this dehumanization is what you can say perpetrated in order to facilitate the future atrocities. So that's enemy images. Okay. Then the next step after enemy images is open hostility. Open hostility. Now, the other party is no longer viewed as human being. Unlike you, he or she is not a sensible person who is suffering because of the ongoing conflict. The person is unreasonable, evil, and without redeeming qualities. So this differentiation allows open hostility such as psychological and physical violence. So at this point, sentiments like the ends justify the means appear. Okay, then moderate voices of reason who are not a direct part of the conflict are seen as traitors, okay, turncoats, or as knave or unreliable and are therefore shunned. As one progresses along this path, the acts of open hostility become more and more frequent, severe, and acceptable. And then the final step of the conflict escalation comes is polarization. So coexistence is no longer possible. That means polarization. So these are the conflict escalation steps. Okay. I repeat, disagreement, personification, the problem expands, dialogue stops, enemy images, open hostility, and polarization. So that's how any conflict escalate. Okay. Now, there are 5 dimensions of conflict. Okay, 5 dimension of conflict. Yet another way of analyzing conflicts is to determine what dimension the conflict is part of. When people are in conflict, it is usually means that they have a need that has not been met. So this need is usually linked to one or more of 5 different dimensions: structural, instrumental, interest value, or personal. Okay. The different dimensions present different challenges. It should be noted that conflicts are not necessarily dealing with only one dimension. Most conflicts are embedded within 2 or more dimensions. So, first, we'll see the structural dimension. Okay, now the structural dimension surrounds or encompasses the other dimensions. This is done to illustrate that the structural dimension is the external framework that we live and work under. So this includes legislation, ownership, and organizational structure. The structural dimension is not alterable directly by conflict resolution between conflicting parties, but the work done dealing with a specific conflict may illuminate areas of the structural dimensions that needs attention in order to prevent future conflicts. So the courses of action available when dealing with conflicts weighed in structural dimension are, for example, to influence decision makers through grassroots movements or the use of other such democratic rights. That comes under structural dimension. Then the second dimension is the instrumental dimension. Okay, now if the center of gravity of the conflict is in the instrumental dimension, they are often quite concrete. Two parties are in disagreement as to how a given task is to be dealt with. So most of the times people remain focused on the issue when dealing with instrumental conflicts. So people often have these disagreements without escalation, only if the disagreements are rooted in other dimensions, or if great animosity is present, do they escalate. The most reasonable way to approach problems of an instrumental nature is through argumentation and finding solutions that are acceptable to both parties. So this is instrumental dimension. Then the next is the dimension of interest. Okay, so this dimension is centered on resources. So these resources can be of many different types: money, time, and space, for instance. So power and influence can also be resources that are fought over. In large scale conflicts, resources can include territories, water supply, and natural resources. So, when dealing with the dimension of interest, a reasonable approach is to negotiate in order to reach an agreement on the division of the resources. Then number four dimension is what you can say, the dimension of value. Okay, by values, personal and cultural values. So these includes ideology, religion, moral, aesthetic, and political values. So these values are something that you are willing to fight for. They define what is right and wrong, what one can or cannot do. So conflicts that escalates are often embedded in either the dimension of the value of or the personal dimension, as these dimensions are non-negotiable. So the goal is to reach a greater understanding of the other party's position. When one understands the reason and background for another person's value, they are much easier to accept or tolerate. The way to deal with conflicts of a value oriented nature is through open dialogue, appreciative inquiry, and non-violent communication. So this is about the dimension of value, the number four dimension. And the last one is the personal dimension. Okay, now this dimension is at the root of many conflicts. This is where people are driven by strong emotions and fears. Do people recognize my worth? Am I being left out? The personal dimension include such type of notions as identify, loyalties, rejection, and self-esteem. So open dialogue, appreciative inquiry, and non-violent communication are, as was the case with the dimension of value, just we discussed earlier, the best approach when dealing with the personal dimension also. So in reality, these dimensions are always intertwined. When two colleagues are in conflict over an office space, it may seem like an instrumental conflict, but at the same time, it may be rooted in interest and a fight for what one party considers justice, power, or the need to be recognized. So, an analysis of the dimensions of conflict can provide knowledge on where to begin or where to focus one's energy when attempting to deal with the conflict. Okay, so this is about the five dimensions of conflicts. Now, How we meet conflicts. Okay, conflicts do not have a life of their own. Conflicts are the result of how people interact and the issues they disagree on. There are various ways or methods for meeting or engaging conflicts. These methods and ways are influenced, among other things, by your understanding of conflicts in general. Okay, now fight, fight, openness. What now? See, fight, fight, openness. In general, in general, one can identify three strategies when dealing with conflicts. Okay, the first strategy is fight. FIGHT, fight. This strategy can manifest itself in many ways, among which are to be evasive. So, ignore the issue, denial, or to belittle the problem. One can physically or emotionally run away and terminate contact with other person one is in that one is in conflict that one is in conflict with. So that is fight. The second is fight. Manifestation of this strategy includes retaliation, sarcasm, physical or psychological violence, and condensing or patronizing behavior. That is fight. So fight, fight, and the third one is openness. So recognizing that there is a conflict and that you are a part of it, being inquisitive, have the courage to maintain contact, and being curious and engaging in dialogue. So these different reactions are not comparable to moral guidelines where one is more correct than the other. So there are undoubtedly situations where each of the options of reaction is sensible and relevant. Experience, however, has shown that when possible, openness is preferable. Okay. Then groups in conflict. Okay. Now, what is groups in conflict? When dealing with conflicts in group or in group setting, it can be valuable to perform a flow analysis. Okay. The flow analysis views the group being analyzed as an organism where each individual is interconnected to the next. The result of the analysis is not directed at any one individual, but at the group as a whole. Okay, to perform a flow analysis, sit the group you wish to analyze in a circle and ask each member of the group one by one three questions. Okay, so groups in conflict, if you want to analyze this kind of conflict, you have to ask three questions. The first, how do you disrupt the flow of this group? The second, why do you do this? And the third, what do you need in order to be willing to change your strategy? Okay, so the various answers to these questions are written on a piece of paper and checked for accuracy with the respondents. After everyone has responded to the first question, the next round is commences and so forth. Okay, so after the three rounds, the group is divided into three, one group per question. Each group must then condense the answers to their particular question into as few sentences as possible without loss of meaning. And the result of this process is how the group as an organism believes flow is stopped, why it is stopped, and what needs to be done in order to prevent it from being stopped. The process is conducted in complete openness. So that's how you can resolve conflicts in group. Okay. Then um, now, as you know exactly the meaning of conflict. Now, the next part is conflict resolution. So, working towards conflict resolution. So, we utilize several methods when dealing and working with conflicts. So, now I will give a brief introduction to two different ways of dealing with conflicts. The methods range from investigating a conflict by means of mapping the conflict to active mediation between parties in a conflict. Okay, now the first one is mapping the conflict. Okay, now we are discussing conflict resolution. Okay, the first one is mapping the conflict. Okay, when dealing with a conflict involving many people, one way of engaging the conflict is to map it out. Okay, sometimes conflicts involve large populations, even entire villages. At such times, it is sensible to identify the different parties and their unique role in the conflict and the relationship between them. So, in order to create a map of the conflict, you need to examine and uncover. Okay, now there are some points like who are the people directly involved in the conflict, who among these are influential or in a position of power, who are the most radical and who are more open and accessible, what persons not involved in the conflict have the ability to influence those in conflict, what do community people know and think of the conflict? Then identify key people who are respected by both sides of the conflict. For example, a teacher, a nurse, a priest, or a doctor. Are there people who can help and support those directly involved? Are there people who, for various reasons, do not wish the conflict to be solved? So, based on the information you have gathered, you will be able to draw a map of the conflict. The map consists of all those individuals who, in one way or another, are important in regards to resolving the conflict and include the people in conflict, but very much so also those who influence the parties and the conflict directly and indirectly. So once the players are in place, one must map out in what way they are interested or what way they are interrelated. Do so by linking the various players to each other and distinguish between positive and negative relations. So when this is done, one has a far clearer perspective of the situation and knows to a much larger degree what assets are at one's disposal and also what challenges needs to be addressed. So with this information in mind begins the massive work of getting individuals and groupings to communicate. So with the assistance of the individuals who are respected by both sides, one starts with the most moderate individuals in the conflict. When the tension between these more moderate parties in the conflict are loosening, one can begin to include the more radical individuals in the process. The process involved consists, among other things, of numerous meetings which must be conducted under strict order. Gradually, more and more people from the conflicting parties are included in these meetings, and there will always remain some that retain their position and attitudes towards the opposing side. However, after the long process of conflict resolution, they will be minority and soon lose their influence. Okay, then the next is very important, meditation. Okay, so meditation can take many forms, ranging from a complex academic endeavor to something simple that even young school children can perform. So meditation is also a strategy for the conflict resolution. So meditation is voluntary and confidential method of solving conflicts. An impartial third party. Impartial third party means the mediator is brought in to help the two conflicting parties reach a solution that both find satisfactory. The parties are not obliged to reach an agreement or a solution, and everyone involved, including the mediator, have the option to terminate the process if they wish to. The goal of the process is for both parties to claim ownership of the conflict. Those in conflict have a chance to speak their truth, and having that truth heard and are required in turn to listen and hear other sides' truth as well. Hopefully, this results in restoration of the dignity of both parties and relation between them, as well as lasting agreements concerning future interaction. So we can present some general guidelines for the meditation process. Okay, now steps in meditation. The first one is opening. For a detailed description of how to open a meditation, the first one is opening. The second, the party's account of the issue and open dialogue. Like facts, feelings, interests, and needs. That is second step. The third step is consensus regarding the problem at hand. The parties agree on what problems to deal with. That means consensus. The number fourth is possible solutions. That is brainstorming. Number five is negotiation, and the last one is reach an agreement and approve. So these are the steps in meditation. Okay, so we'll discuss each one. Now, opening. The first step is opening. Opening means what? Presentation, briefly on the process itself and the different roles, the mediator's impartiality, confidentiality, voluntary, the purpose of this meditation, agreement on the ground rules, for instance, to allow each other to speak without interruption. Okay, then practical matters, the allocated time frame, possible follow-up, then acceptance to proceed based on before mentioned. So wherever possible, include both parties, make continuous checks with them to ensure they agree on the things discussed and mentioned. So that is opening. Okay. Then the next is non-violent communication, facts and what you can say, feelings needs to possible actions. Okay, so in order to reach the heart of a conflict, it is sensible to approach the conflict from the perspective of facts, feelings, needs, and possible action. Okay, now facts. This is what has happened, or to be more precise, this is the interpretation of one party regarding what happened. That is fact. So, when in an escalated conflict, one tends to confuse facts, opinions, prejudices, and feelings. When working with conflict, it is important to separate these in order to gain some perspective. So, it is difficult exercise, but of utmost importance. Ask the parties to, as precisely as possible, recount what happened. This kind of questions you have to ask. What happened, or who did what and when? So that is, so when you ask this kind of question, you will certainly get facts. Okay, then comes feelings. Feelings means what? To express, acknowledge, and accept the feelings the incident or issue prompted. Can this can give valuable insights into the needs that have not been met. So feelings are important because of their existence. Everyone has feelings. Feelings play a very vital role in conflicts, and if they are not dealt with appropriately, they can obstruct the process of conflict resolution. Okay, so in non-violent communication, the very important is fact, interpretations, then feelings. The third one is needs. Okay, needs are pivotal to any conflict resolving work. The needs that have not been made or have been violated are the cause of the feelings one is having. So these needs include the need to be accepted, to be trusted, the need for respect, recognition, and many more. So when one knows what needs have been violated, it is possible to examine what needs to be done to recognize or fulfill those needs and thus resolve the conflict. And after that, the last step is actions. Okay. So, possible actions. When the relevant needs have been identified, it is time for positive actions. So, these actions can be concrete suggestions for future interactions between parties in a conflict, but can also be one party in a conflict strategy for ensuring that his or her needs are met in the future. So these are the non-violent communication facts, that means interpretations, feelings, needs, and action. Then finally, I would like to conclude this with the conclusion. So, conflict resolution. So, working with conflicts provides a short introduction to conflict resolution as we seen. So, when are we dealing with conflicts? How do conflicts evolve or escalate? Or how can one work with conflicts in a constructive manner? Okay, so The purpose of the conflict resolution is to promote knowledge of peaceful conflict resolution, um, then to provide education in a conflict resolution for individuals and organization, then to assist organizations and groups in solving collaborative difficulties, and to develop and disseminate theories on the methods of what you can say conflict resolution. So conflicts are a part of everyday life. They form in our close relations at a societal level and on international level. So all too often we see conflicts leading to aggression, hostility, and war. But conflict can also be a stepping stone leading to change and wisdom if we learn to handle them constructively. So with this, I conclude my talk, and thank you for the opportunity. And yes, now the forum is open for question answers. So if
Wow. Wow. Wow.
ask
Thank
any
you
question.
so much. What can we say? You've really taught us a lot on conflict resolution. And I've really jotted a lot of things, and I want to say thank you so much. Um, um, I have question, but let me open it to others. Please, this is very important. If you have any questions, this is the time to ask. Let me see our audience. Okay. All right. Thank you so much for joining us today. Ambassador Dennis, Ambassador Stephen Davison, Ambassador Professor Oben, Ambassador Olaniyi Odukoya, Ambassador Bolatito Ladapo, Dr. Stephen Cameron, and also Captain Erare. Thank you so much for joining us today. And also from Facebook, we have Ambassador Motola. Okay. We have also Flomi. We have from Georgia. I can't understand that name there, but it's from Georgia, and many, many more. Thank you so much for joining us today. Now we are opening the floor for questions. So quickly, before our professor, so that we can call on the next speaker, if you have any question from what you've learned this morning, please ask your questions now. Ambassador Mercy Oben, do you have question? Ambassador Bolatito, do you have question? Our professor is still in here and he will answer any questions you ask. So Dr. Stephen, do you have any question or comment? Okay, if you have, let's contribute to this. Captain ARA, yes, your question, please. Okay. Any other questions? To me, to be honest, that presentation is clear. And it's well presented. And I really understood it. You've really broken it down for us. But let me just see if we can have any questions before we move on.
Yeah,
Dr. Stephen Kama?
Elizabeth. Thank you so much for giving me opportunity for my comments. It was really comprehensive.
Yeah.
Professor has explained, very well, and I really enjoyed. I really learned a lot that what conflicts are, how can we resolve the conflicts, and I'm really thankful to you and to the professor for this great session because in our daily lives, we face conflicts. We face those people, with which we cannot actually, cope with. So, how to resolve those conflicts? That is the biggest challenge. And thank you so much for this great session. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is it possible to open your camera, or are you busy in the background or something, so that the Facebook participants also can see your face while you are speaking? So if it's possible to just open your camera a little bit.
Hello.
Okay.
Sorry. Can you repeat the question?
Do you have any question, Dr. Stephen Cameron? I think it's just commenting.
Yeah, it was just a comment. It
Okay,
was just a
comment.
comment,
Okay.
and a gratitude for such an amazing lecture, such an
Oh,
amazing session. Yeah,
Thank you
thank you.
so much. Thank you so much.
thank
That's
you, thank you,
Dr. Stephen Cameron from Pakistan. Thank you so much, sir.
thank
I
you.
can see Ambassador Professor Dr. Mercy raising her hand. Any question, ma'am? While we are waiting for you, I just said another comment from the chat box. The presentation is very clear. Thank you for this amazing section from Ambassador Bola Tito. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Okay, Ambassador Professor Mercy, is it possible to ask your questions and open camera if
Yes,
possible?
no, I won't put on the
Okay,
camera.
all
I'm
right, that's
sorry
fine.
about
That's
that.
fine. That's fine.
First of all, I want to appreciate the presenter. He has really broken it down to our understanding, and that is very good. But I have this question. All over the world, you have conflicts here and there among the elites. They seem not to be working together. Conflicts are so much around that circle. And in families, you have so much conflict that break down the marriage. Um, what can you say, sir, that is leading to so much conflict nowadays as against what it used to be in the time past? Of recent, more divorce in the family, business setup, more disagreements, workplaces disagreement, airlights, more disagreement. What could be the main issue, and why is it that people cannot easily come to terms? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Okay, Professor Patrick. We can't hear you. No. Yeah.
Hello.
Okay.
I
Yes,
think
yes.
asking general the why the conflicts are happening, I
Okay.
guess.
Yes.
So conflicts within families and businesses can stem from a variety of factors actually, both internal or external. So there are some common reasons who conflict may arise, like communication issues. So poor communication, as I discussed earlier, or lack of effective communication channels can lead to misunderstanding, misinterpretations, and unresolved issues escalating into conflicts. Then differences in values and belief. Okay, disagreements over values, beliefs, and priorities among many or among the family members or business partners can lead to conflicts, especially when these differences affect decision making processes. Then power struggles. Conflict may arise when there is a struggle for power, control, or authority within the family or any other business. So this can occur due to unequal distribution of responsibilities, conflicting agendas, or differing visions for the future. Then unresolved past issues. So past conflicts or unresolved issues can linger and resurface, causing ongoing tensions within the family or business environment. Then financial disputes. So money related issues such as unequal distribution of wealth, disagreements over financial decisions, or disputes over inheritances can create significant conflicts. Then role ambiguity, unclear roles and responsibilities within the family or business or any other workplace structure can lead to confusion, resentment, and conflicts over who should be doing what. Then external pressures. So external factors such as economic challenges, market competition, or changes in industry regulations can put additional strain on these kind of environments, exaggerating existing conflicts. Personality clashes also one of the reason. Differences in personalities, communication styles, conflict resolution approaches among family members or business partners can lead to clashes and misunderstanding. Then lack of boundaries, failure to establish clear boundaries between family relationships and business operations can lead to conflict of interest, favoritism, and blurred lines of authority. And resistance to change, I can say. So, resistance to change or the reluctance to adapt to new ideas or technologies or market trends can create tension and conflict within the family or business, especially if some members are more resistant than others. So, overall, conflicts within families and businesses often arise from a combination of all these factors which we discuss, and addressing them requires open communication, as I discussed earlier, also mutual respect and willingness to compromise and seek common ground. So I guess that's my answer to your question, Ambassador. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Please, can I just add? You are just so wonderful. Can I just add this? I think because of the magnitude of this conflict in the world, will I be right to ask that change of mindset will help a lot in bringing solution to conflicts?
Yes, of course, because it's a game of mind versus mindset.
Thank you
Interesting.
very much.
Thank you
That
so
is
much for
okay.
that question. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, I believe that we've satisfied with your presentation today, because you are coming back tomorrow again, and we haven't sorted out your 10th of 10th of March. I don't know what you want to do on that one, but you said you let me know about your section on the 10th of March. But tomorrow again, we are having you on this platform to come and teach us another topic. And we want to appreciate you well. Thank you so much. You've
Thank you.
anytime you come here, it's like you are well prepared, despite the fact that Professor Dr. Patrick Mungaker is always busy. Is either in, where are you now, if I may ask? UK?
Now I'm in India.
Aha, you're back in the last time you were in Philippines. So he travels a lot. He travels a lot. And still, he always have us in mind. You see, Professor Queen Elizabeth, whenever. So I want to appreciate that. Whenever time I call you, you are always ready, not only ready, fully prepared. And I really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thank
So
you.
I see you tomorrow. Okay. Now we need to move on, because I don't think we have any other question. We still have two great speakers as well as Professor Patrick that are going to teach us here today. Finance is very, very